So out here at SHOT Show 2024 in the GATORZ booth, we have Perry here with us, former Navy SEAL. He's one of our ambassadors, also an ambassador for Victos, Hard-Headed Veterans, Night Vision Devices, and Premier Body Armor. Did I miss any?
I don't think so. I think that was it.
No. Okay, I actually
You're
did
good.
it.
Good
Can
job.
you believe it? And you could do some other stuff too. You've got a training business and then a nonprofit.
Yep.
Awesome. What's the nonprofit and what's that about?
So the nonprofit is called Active Valor. And so what we do is we have a mentorship program where we take transitioning veterans and we pair them as ongoing mentors to Gold Star children, which are children that have lost a parent either overseas in combat or the PTSD-related suicides. And so throughout San Diego County is where we're located and where we operate. We host a series of very elaborate themed outdoor adventures where the veterans can kind of pass on their military experience and knowledge with the kids that don't have that in the home anymore. And so, and through that, we wanted to have a focus on giving our veterans that purpose again, giving them a mission. Unfortunately, I've lost some friends through suicide while getting out, and even though it's a very long discussion we can talk about with that, but the simplest answer for me is you take away a man's mission, and it's very hard to get out of bed every day and know why you're getting up. So we wanted a chance for them to do something very meaningful and impacting again, and kind of show them that there's communities that really still need your service, regardless if you're in the military or not anymore. So that was kind of our way of trying to steer them towards just having that higher purpose again, and they're doing something super meaningful. They're helping a family that has gone through really bad tragedy. And then on the flip side, with the Gold Star families, they get the ability to, for the children, they're having these days with around other Gold Star kids. They know the reason why they're with us, but with our organization, we don't focus at all on the grieving portion. There's lots of different organizations that do that for them in that community. So we just wanted to have good experiences and memories for them to take with them. So now they get to, for the day, hang out with someone that has walked in the shoes of their fallen father, and to just kind of have that day where they're not there to fill dad's shoes, but they're there to be a friend, a role model, a coach, whatever you want to call it. So that adult figure that's not your parent, that they can just enjoy their time. And so we try to incorporate doing some valuable life skills for them, but at the same time we make sure they're very fun. It's a day they're going to come, they're going to show up, nothing's needed from them, they're just going to have a good time. We're going to have a good meal together with all of the spouses as well. We set up some type of activity for all the moms. It was strangely enough, is when we were starting the organization, we had so much focus on the children and the mentors and what their relationship was going to be like, that we didn't really even anticipate what it was going to do for all the moms. And so for them, it's a time where, one, they get to show up, they get to hand their kid off for some free babysitting.
A little bit of a break.
And
I know how that is. I got 4 kids myself, so I know people need a break.
It's funny because they'll dangle it in front of their faces if they're not behaving, and it's like close to an adventure time. They're like, we're not going to go to Active Valor, and they're like, all right, be good. But so they get to show up. They know that their kids are off with some good dudes, teaching them some good life skills, and for them, they can have that time with one another. They can round table it. They share stories of their, just their lives, their husbands. They're actually very involved with each other's lives, like with all the other organizations. So a lot of our Gold Star families with our program already knew each other from other organizations. So, but it's just a chance for them to just talk and to not worry about what's kind of sad, as we've heard this from a couple of our widows with the program, is after a period of time, talking about their lost husband gets to be kind of like, quote unquote old news with friends and family.
Oh, for sure.
And so it's a kind of like their safe space where they're not going to be judged for anything, and they can just feel free to talk about whatever. But we'll do our best to have some type of fun thing for them to do, where they can. It's relaxing. The last event we had, we actually rented out a golf course for the day, and we had all these mini games set up on a bunch of the holes, and so the
Yeah.
kids and vets are driving around in the carts, just going hole to hole, doing all these different games, and we set up all the moms with the spa package. So now
Oh,
they're hanging by
nice.
the pool, they're getting massages and things like that.
Yeah.
And so we just, yeah, we really look forward to just getting everybody together, and it's become now. So we've been running for 7 years,
Wow.
and so
Yeah.
it's got to the point where it's like a big family reunion every time everyone
That's
shows
awesome.
up.
Yeah.
It's an awesome time, and we're not a big organization. We only at the moment serve about 26 families, and so we have anywhere from 40 to 45 kids coming to the events, and it's very tight.
Yeah.
We know all of the families personally. Like we even text back and forth, so we wanted to make sure they weren't just like a number.
Yeah, that's probably good. So that when they do have hard times, they have that comfort level with even reaching out, and they have that,
Right.
that support structure that's family right there
Right.
with you guys. So being that smaller organization, you're a lot more effective, I would think, with those groups.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's just, and for us, and it is just me and my wife that run
Yeah.
it. So it's the two of us that run all the operations. My wife's background was in like the digital side, so even she runs our website and our she was shooting and editing our videos and photos. So
She wears many hats.
very very many hats, and so again, as for two people, it's a lot of work. Especially she's a full-time job, and I have a second business. We just had a baby.
Yeah.
So it's a lot, but it's all worth it. When you're there, it doesn't matter how stressed we get trying to get these things together, but when you're there, everyone's there. You see all the happy faces, and it's so rewarding. And so, selfishly for me, I was having a really hard time with my transition out,
Yeah.
and I was like, what can I do? What can I do to have that
purpose to
mission
fill,
again?
yeah.
Exactly. So selfishly, it did wonders for me just being able to, and I don't even get to participate. We create all these super fun activities,
Yeah.
and like, man, I don't get to do anything, but yeah, it's super rewarding just being able to
Awesome.
bring these two communities together.
So for listeners, where can they go to check it out or help or donate or anything like that? You guys have a website and
Yeah,
and
of course.
social?
So you can go to activevalor.com, and we have a place to donate. There's actually a video archive of all of our adventures that we do. So it's one thing to hear about, but you can also try to get a good visual of what actually
Yeah.
goes on during these things. And so, and then we're on the social media platforms. So Facebook and Instagram is usually what we kind of stick to. But yeah, we love sharing what we do, and we're hoping that this year we can actually start taking on some new families. And we've had a bunch of families last year kind of reach out to us to come on board. And so we at the time we couldn't, just because we had a shortage of mentors. So
Yeah.
we like to have that one-on-one ratio. So every time a family comes to us, doesn't matter how many kids they have, each child gets their own mentor, and we keep them as a pair until one of them is no longer with us. And since it's been so long since we've been running, it's been cool because we've seen kids graduate high school,
That's awesome.
go off to college. We've had some of our mentors that had their mentees in their wedding party, things like that.
Wow,
So it's
yeah.
been cool to see the relationships that still the
Lifelong
bonds that stay
relationships
after.
built.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
really
awesome.
cool.
So, why don't you tell me a little bit about your journey into the teams, and then we'll just kind of fast forward a little bit after you got out, and
Okay.
just listeners, and how you ended up the teams, and that little journey.
Sure. Yeah, I was so I grew up in New Hampshire. Super average, maybe
Yeah.
below average kid. I was not a good student in school. I was a very subpar athlete. I loved playing sports, but I was not your stellar athlete or anything.
I feel like that's kind of Travis wasn't very good. Kennedy was in here. Is that kind of the MO? Is you're not very good at school?
Maybe. And it was more along the lines of I just didn't apply myself.
Yeah.
I would daydream a lot and whatever. I was just a very bad student. So
Normal
I didn't
kid.
believe in homework.
Yeah.
Things like that. So so after graduating high school, I went to college, and that's when I realized like
Not for you.
further schooling is it's not for me.
Yeah.
And so this is 2003, and at this time, we were still in that era where it's like, well, if you don't have the college degree,
Yeah.
what are you going to do in life? And so the military was kind of like a secondary option. At the time, one of my good friends from high school had had joined the Navy right after high school, and so I kind of just talked to him, picked his brain a little bit, and I ended up going to one of our local recruiters' offices, and had no idea what I was looking for. So I, went to all the branches. I was like, "What's the hardest thing you got?"
Yeah.
And, back then there was no real movies and TV shows and video games,
Yeah.
so I really didn't know a whole lot about the SEALs or the community. I'd heard of them.
I think at that time it would have been maybe the Discovery Channel deal was about the only
Right,
thing out.
and so I ended up seeing that.
Yeah.
So basically, the Navy recruiter actually had a lot of information on. He sent a lot of kids to Buds.
Yeah.
And so he told me about what to look for.
Yeah.
Like, he gave me some books to look at, and I think like Tears of the Sun was the closest the movie I had at that time. So I was like, that's sounds challenging. I had no idea what I was getting in for at all, and so I ended up enlisting with a Buds contract.
Mhm.
So after boot camp, and then in my A school to get my rate, because the SEALs weren't their own source rate yet, so I had to get my Navy rating, and then I spent some time at the Dive Motivator program just for prep. It's actually like a structured program now. Back then, it was just you would go. You might be there for a month. You might be there for 6 months, and kind of just dependent on like what program you were going into. So I was there for a little while, and then shipped out to San Diego in 06. I think end of February of 06. And so I started with class 259 and ended up getting an injury in the middle of Hell Week. I got nerve damage in my neck and lost all feeling and movement in my left arm, like completely. It was just hanging and dangling there. And so what's funny is it's pretty common. There's a couple kids per class that it happens to. And so when I was talking to the medical about it, they're like, good news is feeling will come back.
Yeah.
Bad news is it could be a day, it could be a year. We have no idea how to judge. And so it took 3.5 months for me. And during that time, they stuck me in the in-doc office just doing, office work, which was kind of cool because I got to, meet the instructors, and it was a more personal basis. And then I classed up again with class 261, middle of Hell Week, got pneumonia.
Oh,
and
man.
I almost died. So I passed out in the chow hall, and I guess I just face planted in my meal. And so I woke up in the ER to they were cutting my clothes off. My boots were flying. I had no idea what was going on. And my O2 level went down to a 49.
Wow.
And very surprisingly, they kept me around after 2 medical rolls. And so they were like, all right, we're going to keep you around, but you have to class up with the next class. And I was so broken, physically broken. Stress fracture in my femur. My hip flexors were a disaster, but
mentally, we broke down.
So
too
it was hard. It was hard because coming from class to class where you're actually you're meeting friends.
Yeah,
you have to you get rolled back. You see them move forward, and having that twice. You're like having to get the worst part of Buds physically is that first month up until Hell Week and through Hell Week.
Yeah.
It's the most physically demanding. That's when you do your surf tortures, your IBS stuff, your log PTs. So I had to go through that 3 times. And then into my 3rd Hell Week, I ended up making it with class 262 and made through Buds, made it through SQT, and graduated with them.
Awesome.
And then from there, I went to SEAL Team 7 in Coronado. And I was fortunate enough, especially as a new guy, when it came to our deployment time, we ended up, we were supposed to be going to Basra, Iraq for our deployment. And right about a month before we left, they were like, hey, they took our platoon and another platoon from the team. They're like, hey, you guys are going back. They're going to Afghanistan. And so we were now we had to do all this additional, mountaineering training, things like that. So it was cool because we got to go over and do a lot of good work, and got to have a nice action-filled deployment as a new guy. And that's I didn't spend a whole lot of time. I only spent 4 years in the teams, and so I did a 6-year career total in the Navy. But coming from the teams, so when I got out in 2011, and had no plan.
Mhm.
I a huge mistake of just really not making a plan coming out, and
Yeah.
kind of was like, I'll wing it. I'll go. I went back to school for a little while, so I'm on the disability, I'm getting the GI Bill,
Mhm.
and going back to school. But again, it's like going back to college. I'm like, well, I dropped out of college for a reason.
Yeah.
So I didn't end up sticking. I went back to school for about almost a year
Mhm.
after I got out, and then just started working jobs. And it was challenging because again, there was no structure to what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was kind of just hopping on whatever I could find. I ended my first job out of the military was working for this company called Competitor Group, and they put on all the rock and roll marathons. I don't know if you're
Mhm.
familiar with those.
Yeah.
They're nation. Actually, they do international stuff too. But so that was fun. I mean, I was on just a crew setting up the races. But every other week we were in a different major city, which was fun because I actually never really got to travel the country at all.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I did that for about a year, and then switched over to working at the gun range.
Mhm.
And
And then you stayed in the San Diego
yeah,
area?
so I stayed in the San Diego area. It was that was challenging because I was alone. Like my entire family is still on the East Coast, and it's just not a place I wanted to go back to.
Yeah.
I never see myself living back in New England. So I stayed out in San Diego, and my saving grace was getting a dog. That was the
Really?
first thing I did when I got a dog like the week before I got out of the service. And so
Gave you a
just
little
to
bit of purpose,
get
I
some
guess,
good
something to take
responsibility
care of.
again.
Yeah.
And so he's 13 now, but
Wow, that's up there.
yeah, he's doing good. He's actually doing really well. Um, but yeah, so I was just kind of just jumping around job from job, but everything I was doing was just building up other people's dreams and visions.
Yeah.
And so so 2014 is when I met my now wife, and so that kind of had some good changes of having a relationship, and
Yeah.
she's from the area, so like I got to kind of be indoctrinated in her whole family, and it's been really good since. But so in late 2014, I started working for this company called Warfighter Academy, and we were doing just close quarters training for civilian, military, law enforcement, but it was strictly force and force. So
Mhm.
we're doing training where they're shooting paintball guns, shooting ammunition, and you're
Yeah.
actually you're training how to gunfight. It's a lot different than just running through rooms shooting at paper targets.
Yeah.
So I was with them for years, and so that was one. It was like my first introduction into the veteran community, and
Mhm.
so all of the instructor staff are all combat vets, and so meeting other guys from different branches and services, and hearing their stories and their struggles
Yeah.
with their transitions, and their struggles with what they were doing now. That's kind of what sparked the idea for the nonprofit.
Mhm.
Like being around other guys and
Yeah.
hearing how common it is to like everyone's stories. And then the funny thing is, like, a lot of vets think they're going through it alone and that they're the only one going through their problems. And
Yeah.
almost every single one of them getting out is going to have some type of hard transition. So,
Yeah, it's tough as men. We you got to be tough and
Right.
or at least have that illusion of it, and so you hold a lot of stuff back, and it's tough to get a man to speak out and
Absolutely.
talk about what his problems are. Want to absorb it like a sponge.
And these are people that would be at the drop of the hat, be there for somebody else, but
Yeah.
they're going to be the last ones to ask for help. And so, and I think that's just ingrained in us. Like going through the service is, you're taught to be hard, and no one wants to be a burden on anybody else. So it's like, well, I'm going to keep my problems to myself, which is super unhealthy.
Yeah, for sure.
But at the same time, it's very understandable because that
Yeah.
just is the mindset we have during our time in service, and of course, that's going to translate to being out in the civilian side. But yeah, so I was working for them for a few years, and I actually had a really great time there. I learned a lot. I mean, we were training 3 to 4 hours a day, 4 days a week for years. It
Wow.
was the most consistent training I have ever had, and There's a lot of stuff that I learned that I didn't learn in the teams that I now still use today, especially like when I teach as well. But yeah, it was a really good experience. And then from there, we ended up starting the nonprofit, and that just kind of came our focus. That was 20. We started it in June 2016.
Nice. And so now you have your own training company too that you're doing?
Yeah, so that's called Fortified Measures, and I'm actually I do a couple things, but I focus on the home defense aspect. So I'm actually going to people's houses, teaching them how to properly clear their home, and prepare and try to strengthen their home to be harder targets for like a home invasion scenario. It's a ton of fun where you get to kind of give people the confidence of unfortunately you see what's happening all around us, and
for sure
it's things are not going to get better, they're going to get a lot worse.
I don't think it's going to get any better, especially this year.
They're going to get a lot worse. So but there's been so many break-ins within San Diego County, and there's actually a few different gangs that are going around. They're very sophisticated, coordinated groups of people that are doing a lot of home invasions, and the police response is super low right now. The average time in San Diego County, depending on where you are, it's a 45-minute wait for a priority 1 call.
Wow.
And that's any type of life-threatening domestic violence type situation. And so but regardless, even if they're 1 minute away, that's still going to be 1 minute.
A lot can happen in 1 minute.
So, I'm trying to teach people that they have to be their own first responder, but giving them the tools to do so. I love people expressing their Second Amendment rights, but you have a huge responsibility to know how to use that tool.
Yeah.
So, if you're that person that buys a gun and keeps it in the nightstand, you never use it until you have to use it.
Yeah,
that's going to be a good day.
That's a common problem, I think, where people that aren't into shooting and training, they want a gun for protection. They'll literally go out and buy a gun, and at a gun store that happens to have a gun range in it, go out there and shoot, 20 rounds for it and think that they're prepared for anything.
Exactly.
And as you know, and anybody that shoots regularly, it's all about, those fundamentals and practice, because, it is something you will lose. And then when, something is happening, you want it to be second nature. It's just you've practiced this, you've done it so many times, you don't even have to think about it. You're ready to go.
Exactly. I mean, no one's ever going to rise to the occasion. All right, you're going to fall back to your lowest level of training.
Yeah.
So, it's such a perishable skill, and for some of the best correlations I've heard is think about like a martial art, right? You're not going to go to a karate class and be a black belt in 2 days. It's going to take years of consistent repetitions, and so that's what it takes. But like with my company, I give them the training tools to where they can also do it on their own time at home.
Yeah.
And so like when I'm training with my clients, I have all like CO2 powered laser based training weapons with interactive targets. Like it's a very awesome setup where it's somewhat realistic. You get blowback with the weapons, things like that. So it's more fun and engaging. It's less stressful than going to a range and having to learn in a range is very difficult. Especially for a novice shooter, you're going to be way more focused about everything happening around you, whether it's the noise, whether it's just not knowing the people that are next to you, which can be a very big danger in itself. But it's just not a good learning environment. Obviously, it has its place where you need to actually go take your firearm, know how it actually functions. You got to get a feel for how it shoots. You got to know how to manipulate it. But you can do all of the fundamentals in the comfort of your own home. Yeah. It just takes the commitment. You got to take the time to do it.
It gives you more time to practice too, not having to go to range and whatnot.
Right.
So what do you
buy ammo? That's the biggest thing is ammo is so expensive.
Yeah, it's expensive, and a lot of times we're finding lately it's hard to get certain ones too. So
it's all going overseas
for sure. And I don't know if that's going to get any better. It's probably going to get worse this year. So what do you think? When you go in and do this, what is probably some of the most common errors or misconceptions that these people have as you're going into their home and assessing it for?
Right. So it's the breakdown is when I show up, we spend the first hour talking about California law. Things they got to know what they can and can't do. theoretically, the most important thing is you staying alive.
Yeah.
But there's legal aspects. We talk about measures they can take outside of the home to beef up security, things you can do inside the home, and give them just a ton of different tips that they can do right away to again try to make their home a not appealing target
Yeah.
for something. They're gonna criminals are gonna go to the path of least resistance.
For sure.
So you give them one thing that's going to get in their way and deter them to another place.
Yeah.
Sorry, neighbors. But
So is that the house protected by Smith and Wesson, or so what is something from the exterior?
That can be
know?
something as simple as having visible video cameras, right?
Yeah.
You have something where it says people are going to see it, know they're on camera, or it could be as simple as like a Ring doorbell. But that's not. Again, it's going to depend on the person themselves. You can do vegetation outside the windows. Put like a thorny bush outside the window if you can, or hardening your locks and your doors, putting thicker, stronger screws in the door jamb.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of kick-ins and stuff. I've seen a lot of videos and stuff online and talk about that. That's just kicking in a door now.
Yeah, but the thing is too, if you can make it so that in order to get in your home, they have to physically break something.
Yeah.
That might just be the edge you need. If you
Gives
are home, that gives
Yeah.
exactly. It gives you maybe a couple seconds to one, think about what's going on, react to going to get your firearm, or if you're, let's say you're in a room where you're not near your firearm and you're in your living room watching TV and they're breaking through the front door. You teach them of what is the immediate weapons you have around you, and that's something that people don't think about. How many candles do you have at your house, right? You can pick up a Yankee candle jar. That's something you could throw at them, hit them with, at least to give you again maybe another second to turn and retreat to wherever your firearm is. Or you could have a hot cup of coffee. That's but just knowing what's in your immediate vicinity, you don't have to just turn and burn to your firearm if you're not going to have the time to. So trying to get them in the mindset of that fighter mindset. And then we talk about what to do afterwards as well. So then we go through the training. And honestly too, it's we go through the time of teaching them how to do room clearing. A lot of it is one person room clearing, which is challenging to do. But theoretically, the best thing for them at the end of the day might be hunkering down in one spot. You find a choke point or a hallway. Maybe it's top of a staircase. You're there holding while your spouse is on the phone with the law enforcement and whatever. They might be stealing your TV and stuff, but the whole purpose is to stay alive, right? And to not have to take a life as well. So if everyone leaves alive, that's probably a good thing.
Yeah.
But then you talk about what no one thinks about what you do after, right? So we talk about things they can do as far as with their lawyers or having insurance and things like that, and things to say. And you want to be a good witness, but you don't want to overshare to law enforcement as well either. So
I mean, especially in California, I think it is a lot of other states. It's a little bit easier in that situation when you are invaded. But I think there's a lot of stuff that you have to know in California.
Yeah, law's not on our side.
No.
Surprisingly enough, that it does recognize the Castle Doctrine. So we we have the ability to defend ourselves with lesser or equal or lesser force. Whatever that means to you, because really just it comes down to how you can.
If you're a 100-pound woman and against a 250-pound man,
right,
and he doesn't have a weapon, that does that's where I think it gets confusing for some people.
Because you don't know intent. I mean, they're in your home, unwelcome. That's intent enough for people. Yeah,
I can't read minds. I don't know.
Right.
They broke into my home, and I don't know what.
And
their
you have
intent
no
is.
idea what mindset they're in either.
Exactly.
Or what they're on.
What drugs?
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of aspects that go into it. So the training is one thing, but what most people don't think about is the before and after. Yeah. So hopefully, just trying to give them a little bit of an edge and it increase their odds of survival, and again, giving them the confidence to know if something happens that they can handle business and take care of themselves and their family.
And so with the customer and your the clients, and what percentage do you think of those are new to owning a gun, that aren't experienced to own guns their life and just want to,
Right.
build their skills more.
I would say it's a probably like a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
So if they are a novice shooter, we don't jump into the home defense stuff.
Yeah.
Because when we're doing the home defense courses, we don't go over the basic fundamentals. Like we're there just to learn the close quarters aspect.
Yeah.
So for the novice shooters, same thing. I'll go to their home with trainers, and we'll go through the fundamentals and actually get them comfortable with handling a firearm first. Then we can do some live fire stuff as well. And once they're a little bit more trained up and at least capable of doing the more advanced maneuvering, then they can move towards that. But yeah, I'd say it's a good split. So is San Diego. San Diego is I would say a fairly conservative city
It still
in
is.
California.
Yeah.
So a lot of military or ex-military, a lot of law enforcement. So
Yeah, and I think that probably contributed to a lot. But I'm in Yuma, as you know. Arizona's not too far from there, so I spent a lot of time there. It definitely is more conservative, but I see it is drifting with the rest of the state a little bit now, though, too.
And unfortunately, it's we're being flooded as well with all the illegals. They're
that border.
We're right at that border.
Yeah,
man, they're being bussed up too. I mean,
yeah,
I think there was thousands of them bussed to Oceanside.
It's
a few months ago. And
next time you're down in Yuma, there's at the Border Patrol station there, they've put up an entire tent city. And they're housing them. And then if every time I fly out of Yuma, I see over it there, they have a big jet that they've rented from somewhere, flying them all over the country. It's
unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot to support for our nation right now, but so when on home defense, there's always, you hear a lot of people on what type of weapon's the best. Is there something that you recommend is the best for home defense? I mean, you have people say a pump shotgun,
right? Yeah, the best firearm is the one you're the most proficient with.
Yeah.
And this is going to be an ongoing, never-ending debate.
Yeah.
And so it really depends on the person. It depends on what they're comfortable with. And, every platform has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
Rifles are going to be easier to shoot. You have larger magazine capacity, but you have a larger weapon. You got to know how to maneuver with that. Through doorways, you're going to get to think about penetration power as well.
What's beyond your target?
Do you live in an apartment building or
Yeah.
a condo complex, or you have neighbors that are, San Diego, houses are on top of one another.
Yeah,
so,
or your kids sleeping in the other
exactly.
room.
Things to think about. Handguns are harder to shoot, but they're smaller, and shotguns, you're limited with round with your capacity of ammunition, and so it's just. It's going to be a never-ending debate, really. But what it comes down to is, what are you most comfortable shooting, and what can you manipulate? Again, if they're maybe a small frame woman that doesn't have the strength to do certain things, you got to figure out what their strengths are going to be. And so I can't give an answer of what the best thing is. So it really just comes down to, what they're the most comfortable or proficient with. Hey, if they grew up on shotguns, they can, shoot the crap out of a shotgun, but can't shoot a pistol, then I'm not going to train them on a pistol when this is their first line of defense. If the shotgun's by the bed or whatever, I'm going to stick to whatever they know the most, if they are an experienced shooter. But yeah, it really comes down to the person. It's a tough conversation.
Yeah.
And then there's do you make your presence known? Do you not make your presence known? Again, it all just depends on the situation. It's going to dictate everything.
Yeah, for sure.
9 times out of 10, saying, "Hey, I have a gun," or you hear the racking of a shotgun. That's the universal sign of "get out of my house." 9 times out of 10, that could work. But again, you don't know what these people are on. You don't know what their intent is.
Exactly.
It was in the middle of the night. There's that saying: if during the day they're coming for your stuff, at night they're coming for you.
Yeah.
And so you just got to be kind of aware of the situation, and you don't know how many people are in your house. So again, in San Diego, these groups are going in with multiple people, and so you might have multiple threats you need to deal with. You want to deal with multiple threats with a shotgun holding 5 shells. It's, I don't know. But then again, so it depends on the personality as well. For me, coming, from my background, when I've had to clear my house, I'm up and out of bed, and I'm running towards the threat.
Yeah.
So it depends on the person and their skill level. I don't want people to go rush into their death. There's no reason behind it. If you're going to be safer here, or in this situation, or if you feel more comfortable, letting them know that you're armed. It's again all situational dependent, but
yeah, for sure. I mean, if you're alone in your house, there's probably a lot different tactic than if you have family or kids in other rooms where you need to get to them
exactly
versus just protecting yourself.
And that's the thing too. It's one thing if you're God forbid you're in a multi-story home and your kids are on a different level and like you are forced to go penetrate through your bedroom and actually go into the house. So knowing how to do that properly is very important. But yeah, like I said, I would say majority of the time it's kids are at least on the same floor. They can get out. They can bring everyone into one location, hunker down, and call it a day. And hopefully everyone makes it through the night.
Yeah, sure. And so that's you do that just with homes, or do you do it with business people or anything like that? Is it just
so?
All
Yeah,
home
I've done offices
training
as well. So what's good about it is you're teaching principles. So whether you're in a house, in an office building, out at the mall, at a convention center, the techniques are going to be the same.
Yeah.
Day one, you're learning how to manipulate and shoot with both left and right hand or left and right shoulder, which is very uncomfortable and uncommon for people to do. But you need to know how to read a left-handed corner versus the right-hand corner.
We did some content and we did some stuff out in the desert and shooting. And I've shot all my life. I grew up, with shooting since I was probably about 3 years old, a little 22. Never shot left-handed, and Perry made me do some stuff, and it was tough. Shooting left-handed, left eye around the corner. It's a different experience. It's something that definitely made me realize that even though I'm a pretty good shot, I'm proficient. I feel confident with a firearm. I realized my skills had a lot to go still to fully get where I need to be.
Yeah, and that being said too is. Everything I teach, regardless, you can do it if you just want to stay in your dominant side. It's just a matter of what your body exposure is going to be like.
Yeah.
For me, I would rather be a left-handed shooter on a left-handed corner and keep more of my body behind cover, but also being in a nice aggressive shooting stance without being in like a wonky position if I'm shooting right-handed.
For sure.
Or something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, I did it a few times out there. I've practiced since then, so it gets easier to do, but it's just, somebody that shot, all types of, weapons in different scenarios for 30-something years to go, wow, I suck at this. I need to, I'm not that good, but you can learn it. And it just shows it's a constant, like you said, you have to stay proficient. It's not simply buying a weapon to protect myself, my home. There's a lot more to it if you really want to be effective when something does happen, and there's not a lot of time to think. It needs to be trained.
It's second nature. But again, all of it can be learned, but it takes time. It takes repetitions. Like I said, I never shot offhand in the military.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I started training at the CQB school, but again, like we had years of consistent training, which is very difficult to do. Even like with law enforcement, I had to train some law enforcement agencies out in San Diego, and it's when you talk about how often they're training, and they're like, "Oh, we get together maybe once every 4 or 5 months."
Yeah,
that's a little unsat there, especially if that's your profession. You know,
for sure.
I get it though. That sometimes they don't have the choice unless they want to do it on their own time, but with a profession like that, like you need to have that repetition. Like you got to put in the effort. So it's
so for people that don't have the opportunity to take your course or something. Some of our listeners, what are some things they can do at home? Dry fire exercises, or using what type of tools to hone their skills. Starting today, for instance.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good trainers you can get. Actually, that's another business I'm affiliated with is laser ammo.
I've seen that.
So
some of your videos. That's cool.
I started working with them. So I've been using their products for years.
Yeah.
I've dropped a lot of money on training tools. I just started working with them late last year. But so there's trainers you can get that, again, they're blowback weapons where you can still get a little bit of realism with recoil and stuff like that.
Using CO2 or
use CO2 or green gas, because really what they are is they're airsoft guns.
Yeah.
They just have a proprietary barrel that has a laser attachment. So you have the interactive targets you can shoot at that,
Yeah.
you want to have that feedback as well. So, so you can get things like that. You can, I mean, YouTube is just
Loaded full of
is
it.
a wealth of knowledge there.
Yeah.
And the good things too is like, especially with my clients, I try to tell them to train as much as they can with as many people as they can.
Yeah.
Right? I do things differently than other people, but they might take a few bits of what I do and take a couple things from what this person does, and they're going to fit it to their style.
Yeah, what they're comfortable with.
Exactly. So just train as much as you can with as many people as you can. I would also say look for any type of force and force classes in your area, wherever you are. Hopefully there's some.
Yeah.
That's hands down the best learning experience you can get.
Gives it that little more realism to what it would be actually.
Exactly. So if you are consistently training with, again, paper targets, and you're clearing rooms with paper targets and there's nothing shooting back at you.
Yeah. Not moving.
It's funny to see how people react.
Yeah.
So like when we train, we also videotape everything, and in your head you might think you look a certain way, and you're like, well, here, let's take a look at the video. Instant replay, and they're like, ooh, but everyone makes the same mistakes. So you're not picking on anyone, especially in like a big group.
Mm-hmm.
You're not picking on anyone. You're going through all the different things that you could do better. But yeah, train as frequently with as many people as you can. But force and force is my biggest recommendation. And then things you can do around the house to just try to make yourself a harder target. Get a dog. Get something that's gonna
some type of deterrent.
Bark at people that are coming out the driveway. But do your research. Know the breeds that are good guard dogs and breeds that are not.
Is it a Chihuahua?
A Chihuahua could be a great guard dog because it's or
I've got one that
an
barks at a
alert
leaf
dog.
that falls.
Yeah, but
but it is very alertive.
Exactly, and you got to pick and choose your battles. If the dog might bark a lot at random things passing by, but at the same time, they're going to bark at people coming up to your door.
It's hilarious that you talk about that. I have a Chihuahua and a Pit Bull. And the Pit Bull is the most docile, calm, and just really, she looks over at Chico, our Chihuahua, and like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Shut up. And it should be the other way around. But the Chihuahua actually is a very good alert dog. He perks up at anything at the door. Before the doorbell rings, he hears something, and he's over there barking, but backing up as barking. But he's alerted us.
That could be, all the difference.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Is you don't need a big German Shepherd or something like that. It is an alert device that the batteries don't go dead in it.
Right.
It's not a camera that requires an internet. That a dog is going to bark at everything.
And this is kind of silly too, but like, let's say you can't get a dog.
Yeah.
You can do something like getting a dog dish and some dog toys, putting it out front. Right. You give the illusion of like, or a beware of dog sign right there in your yard or on your fence or whatever. So at least give the illusion of like, all right, do I really want to go to this house where the dog's going to start barking? Again, cameras are great. You can do, something as simple as, putting, if you have slider doors or windows, put bars in the tracks. So again, if you can make it so that if they are coming in, they have to physically break their way in, that hopefully will give you, a little bit of an edge. But you can do, there's the window sensors that if windows open, it's basically like an alarm. What do you have next to your bed? Do you have just your firearm? Do you have a flashlight? One thing you can do is having your keys. Having your key fob and set off your car alarm from your bed. That's gonna start making noise. Gonna maybe wake up neighbors and get the attention of other people, or be enough attention for them to get up and go. So that's something that's super simple you can have. Is just having the keys next to you while you're asleep.
Definitely.
What else?
Do you have some of these videos or anything, training videos on any of your social stuff?
Not at the moment. Yeah. I'm working on it. So I just started my YouTube 2 weeks ago or so. So I'm actually doing I'm right in the middle of a 5-part series on the training tools I use.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm working towards right now. There's 3 videos up already, but I'm going to be doing a lot of home defense stuff and just giving simple tips. Like you said, I mean, there might be somebody listening from, Idaho, and I'll fly out and do some training with you. I'd love to do that. But,
I don't know if you want to go to Idaho right now. It may be a little cold there.
That's
a little bit different than San Diego.
But, so I'll be doing some more training as well. And Actually, probably talking a lot about the one man stuff because that's again, it's realistic for the home.
Mhm.
I mean, even when I train couples, they're not going to go play commando and do 2-man room entries. It's just not realistic. But the wife of the house wants to know how to defend herself if she has to. But then we formulate a plan.
Yeah.
So we run scenarios in the house, and again, obviously you don't want to try to game the situation because it'll never be the same. But you can kind of get in the habits of what first steps are gonna look like.
Yeah.
So you formulate a plan with their family, with their kids, if they have kids, and you kind of give them just a baseline, like start here.
Yeah.
And then you start adding in all the different, movements, or I'm going to post up here or do whatever it is.
For sure. So for everybody listening, Instagram, YouTube, what are those? How do they find you there and follow you? And
Sure. Yeah. So my Instagram handle is just first and last name, Perry Yee, all one word there.
Are you also in Instagram jail quite a bit for having firearms content? Can't be shown the new people.
I get flagged quite a bit.
Yeah.
And engagements, it sucks. It's low.
Yeah.
But unfortunately.
Yeah. The reason why I say that is we'll on the post we do with this podcast on YouTube, we'll make sure and put it because I know once you get in Instagram jail, people can't find you. You have to type in the
full
exact
exactly
to every dot and everything. So and then on YouTube is
YouTube is just my name as well.
Yeah.
So just Perry Yee, or I think the channel is Perry_Yee. Okay. That's easy. It's YEE. And then the business is Fortified Measures. So the Instagram is fortified_measures. And then it's just fortifiedmeasures.com.
Awesome. Good. I appreciate you coming on today, and hopefully some people got some new knowledge and something they can do and build on.
I appreciate having me, and love working with you guys and love everything you do. So
anytime. All right. Good.